Hello guys, today is day 12 of the 625 day MCQ series and you have to watch all the previous episodes before watching this episode because it's clearly designed for your UPSC prelims. Same like all the other playlist of environment, ancient history, polity, geography, NCRT, Nitin Singhania. All these are done for your prelims, so please watch that. And there are other mains playlist also, Indian society, post-independence India, ethics, then other history and geography textbooks are there. So everything what is needed for your UPSC is done completely free. But if your subscriptions are not as per we expect, then we are going to make it all into a paid course. So please subscribe and enjoy watching all the free lectures. And the quiz daily, try to achieve at the score of 15 to 20 at least, because if it's less than that, that means your preparation is going to be improved, and the exam on October 10 may be difficult for you. So which of the following are true about Global Infrastructure Facility? It is designed to provide a new way to collaborate on preparing, structuring, and implementing complex projects that no single institution could handle on its own. Okay, so that is correct. Its governing council is chaired by World Bank Group and other funding partners. So if you see the detailing here, both are true, and it is a partnership, obviously, of governments, multilateral banks, private sector investors, financiers, all these people. It is designed to provide a new way to collaborate on preparing, structuring, and implementing all the complex projects that no single institution could handle on its own. And the comprehensive project support provided by the GIF draws on the combined expertise of its technical and advisory partners. This group, which includes commercial banks and all these people, are brought to market in a way that sustainable meets are then. Okay, sustainable way only it is done. Then, if you see here, governing council comprise representatives of funding and technical partners, co-chaired by the World Bank Group and funding partner. So I'll show you more details. The advisory council, governing council, funding partner, beneficiary partner, technical partner, in which World Bank and donors are there, regional representatives are there, development banks are there. All these are under the different partners. In advisory partners, all these institutional investors and other commercial banks and organizations that is mentioned. And implementation will be led by technical partners. It will comprise of technical staff from these institutions as well as engineering, financial, economic, legal. So all these kind of people. Okay, it's a joint project kind of team, and they will be working towards these infrastructural projects. Strait of Gibraltar separates which one? Okay, so this again you should know what exactly, or where is Arabian Sea, where is Red Sea, France and England, what is there in between that? Mediterranean Sea, Atlantic Ocean, Black Sea, Sea of Marmara. Black Sea and all is like favorite topic of UPSC, so you have to know. But here the answer will be Mediterranean Sea. If you see, Spain is here, Portugal is here, and here this strait is there. Okay, so here in Africa also, here some points and all is like even no control of Spain, and here Morocco is there, and here Atlantic Ocean, and here Mediterranean Sea. Inside Mediterranean Sea also a lot of small islands are there, like Cyprus, Malta and all. So that also you have to know. Okay, so this is expected question, because most of the other straits and oceans and seas and all UPSC already asked question. So please try to know that this is separating Atlantic Ocean and Mediterranean Sea, and it's one of the busiest route, also busiest waterways, because Europe, Africa, everything, like it has to come through this, and then it will go to the Red Sea. Okay, removal clause of proven misbehavior or incapacity need not apply to, meaning constitution says this is one of the condition in which you can remove certain people. Okay, so it need not apply to whom? So you should know High Court, Supreme Court judge and Chief Election Commissioner all are removed by the same thing. So obviously that three cannot be the answer, because they're asking need not. So answer is Election Commissioner. Okay, Election Commissioner, there is no specific clause mentioned in the constitution, and like only by referring to the Chief Election Commissioner they can be removed. That is the only line mentioned. Okay, but there is no clause mentioned. So here answer will be D, Election Commissioner. So along with these three, even CAG is there, which has the same provision. Okay, so these four have the proven misbehavior or incapacity as a clause for removal. Okay, Article 325 tells that Chief Election Commissioner shall not be removed from his office except in like manner and on the like grounds as judge of a Supreme Court. So that means everyone are on the same grounds, and the condition for service of this thing shall not be varied to his disadvantage. And this election commissioner or regional commissioner shall not be removed from office except on the recommendation of the Chief Election Commissioner, but there is no clause provided. Fast tag. So this one, latest current affair, you have to go and verify. So last year, if you see when it was in news, its validity. Okay, validity is for 5 years and comes in 7 different colors. Now fast tag and all, more and more newer things are coming. So go and see the latest one. The basic thing you can see here, it's a prepaid kind of reloadable tag that allows automatic deduction of toll without having to stop for carrying out the cash transaction. So this already you will be knowing, and it using the radio frequency technology. Okay, the radio frequency will be scanned and it will be without stopping, it will get cut from the wallet. Okay, So 5 years and 7 different colors. These are all not very important, but you should know. Okay, like it's managed by whom and all. Okay, the highway management is there, National Authority, and then National Payment Corporation of India. These are the implementing organizations. FASTag is presently operational both national and state highways. So see the latest news and see the latest validity. Okay. Which of the following are true about Pangong Tso, where all India-China fight is going on since many years? So it is the world's highest freshwater lake. That is wrong because it's a saltwater lake. It is an endorheic lake. That is true. That means it doesn't go and fall into the ocean. It is the first transboundary wetland in the world to get Ramsar tag. It is the first transboundary wetland in Asia. Okay, not Asia or South Asia. It is not the world. So this is wrong. This is wrong. So answer is 2 only. So like this facts, if you know, you can easily solve a question. Okay, so it's not a Ramsar site yet. That is also one thing as of September 2020. But now it has got, I think. So you go and confirm whether it is a Ramsar site or not. Okay, if it gets, it is the first transboundary wetland in South Asia. Okay, and if you see, it's a saltwater lake. It's an endorheic lake. Okay, and all the other distance, shallowness, and all those details are there. It is not part of the Indus River Basin and geographically a separate landlocked river basin. Okay. Which of the following is not a country which surrounds Persian Gulf? So you should know Qatar, Kuwait, Oman and all is nearby. Yemen is little like in the outer side, okay, which is near the other one, okay, Gulf of Aden and all. It is not in the Persian Gulf. So if you see here, this is the Persian Gulf, and here this Shat al Arab, this kind of small terms also study this. This is the Strait of Hormuz, very important, very busy also all the time. And here is the Gulf of Oman. So Persian Gulf to Gulf of Oman, you have to come through Strait of Hormuz. Here Bandar Abbas port is there, very important port. Okay, here if you see, this is UAE, this one, and this is Oman, but Oman has a small piece here also. Okay, so actually Oman is the one which is touching the Gulf of Oman. That's why it's called Gulf of Oman. Okay, because this full is Oman. Here, even though this is UAE, this side and this side, it is both Oman. Okay, and Abu Dhabi is the capital of UAE. Then Qatar, Doha is the capital. Here Bahrain, Manama is the capital. And this full is Saudi Arabia, biggest one here. And Kuwait, capital is Kuwait City. Okay, and here Iraq is there. Here Euphrates river and all will come and fall here. Iran is here. Okay, which capital will be Tehran. And other things are above that. Okay, Caspian Sea and other things will be there. So this area also UPSC have not asked too many questions. So you can expect a question. Okay, because all the time these are in news. Okay, so Yemen is not surrounding Persian Gulf. Which of the following are mentioned in rules of procedure? So here question will be mentioned and 0 hour will not be mentioned. So answer has to be, if you see, question is mentioned in the rules of procedure unlike 0 hour. So answer should be 1 only. This is a highlighting error. If you have my PDF, if you are my enrolled student, you can go and correct this. So question hour, it is the first hour of sitting of the parliament which is devoted to questions that members of parliament raise about any aspect of administrative activity. In 2014, this was shifted from 11 a.m. to 12 noon. The concerned minister is obliged to answer to the parliament either orally or in writing, depending on the type of the question. So the type of questions also another MCQ is there, starred and all. The question can also be asked to the private members. Presiding officers of both houses, Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha, are the final authority with respect to the conduct of question hour. 0 hour, it is an Indian parliamentary innovation. It is not mentioned in the parliamentary rule book. Under this, MPs can raise matters without any prior notice. The 0 hour starts immediately after the question hour and lasts until the agenda for the day, that is regular business of the house, is taken up. Okay, so this basic details, this is from where questions will come. So try to by heart whatever is given here on the screen. Now personality, Ayyankali was a contemporary of Srinarayana Guru. That is true. Ayyankali's popular phrase was, this is not a Brahmin Shiva but a Erava Shiva. Okay, so it's an OBC caste Erava. So this, if you see, told by Srinarayana Guru. Okay, so this is wrong. Answer will be 1 only. So if timeline, if you see 1863 to 1941, he was a social reformer who worked for the advancement of deprived untouchable people in the state of Travancore, and many changes, social well-being, normal things only. And here challenging the ban on untouchables. Okay, so here if you see Villu Vandi, okay, that is an ox cart, just a term. And here more details are there. Again, if you see untouchable, Travancore state, Kerala state, that kind of basics only you have to study. Okay, Mahatma Gandhi called him as Pullaya king. Indira Gandhi described him as India's greatest son. Okay, and he's a contemporary of Srinarayana Guru. He founded Sadhu Jana Paripalana Sangham, Association of the Protection of the Poor. Okay, so this is also by heart it. And then the timeline of the Srinarayana Guru, if you see, around same time, 1855 to 1928, Erava caste, which is a OBC caste. And he met some another person, some Chattampi Swamikal, okay, who introduced Guru to Ayyavu Swamikal, from whom he learned meditation and yoga. Then he wandered again some cave here in Marutvamala. He visited Aruvipuram where he meditated for a while, and during his stay he took a rock taken from the river as the idol of Shiva, which was since became the Aruvipuram Shiva temple. This is a famous temple, so he placed a rock there telling it's a Shivalinga and all. And here again, if you see, it came to be known as Aruvipuram Pratishta. Then this is the phrase he told: this is not a Brahman Shiva but an Erva Shiva. When he placed that rock, he told like that. And his SNDP is there, Sri Narayana Dharma Paripalana Yogam, founded in 15 May 1903 by the efforts of Padmanabhan and who is better known as this one. Okay. So Sri Narayana Guru was the founder president of this SNDP. So this is basic details, and both of them keeps coming in the news. Either president or prime minister will tell his name, or anniversary, something will happen. So please study whatever is there. There's also one area which UPSC have not asked question yet, so it can be asked. Vaikam Satyagraha is related to an agitation around Kerala. Okay, so there was again a social protest about this low caste and untouchability and all. So Travancore region, it triggered a this thing, agitation. So Narayana Guru was stopped from passing through a road leading to Vaikam temple by an upper caste person. It prompted this Kumaran Asan and Mullur S. Okay, these are all disciples of Guru to compose poems in protest of the incident. Then this T.K. Madhavan, another disciple, petitioned this Sri Moolam Popular Assembly in 1918 for rights to enter the temple and worship regardless of the caste. A host of people, including K. Kelappan and K.P. Kesav Menon, formed a committee and announced Kerala Paryatana movement, and with the support of Mahatma Gandhi, the agitation developed into mass movement. The protest also influenced the Temple Entry Proclamation of 1936. So again, this, if you see, okay, Temple Entry Proclamation 1936 related to Sri Narayana Guru. Same like this, Temple Entry things of Ambedkar and all you will study. So don't confuse between the two. Okay, the years will be different. So again, see, it's all low caste issues, but the proclamations and the leader names you have to by heart. Kali Tiger Reserve, which was earlier known as Dandeli Anshi Tiger Reserve, is located in. Okay, so this is in Karnataka. Okay, it's a protected area and tiger reserve, and Kali River flows through it. And it was renamed as Kali Tiger Reserve here, if you see, because earlier it was called Dandeli Anshi Tiger Reserve. It integrated two things, okay, Dandeli Reserve and this Anshi National Park. And here hydroelectric projects are there, nuclear power station is there, and it's under Project Tiger also. Economic recovery can take many forms. Which form is the most optimistic scenario in which the economy quickly rises after an economic crash? So here if you see, V-shaped recovery is one which we and most of the countries now are recovering after the COVID pandemic, because it went totally down and it is coming up. But the most optimistic is not that. There is one called Z. Okay. So with pictures I'll explain. So this you can pause and see. But with pictures, if you see here, economy will go like this and quickly it will come up. Okay. So that is why Z-shaped. So this Z-shape is the most optimistic scenario in which the economy quickly rises after an economic crash. Okay. And V-shaped, if you see, the one which I told, it's go down and come up. So it is the second best, next best scenario after Z-shaped, in which the economy quickly recoups. So whatever extra points are there, this is exactly what UPSC will ask. Okay, like jobs are permanently lost, this is temporarily lost. So that kind of things you pause and see, but the graph alone is self-explanatory to understand the meaning of that graph. Okay, so U-shaped means this after falling struggles around a low growth rate for some time before rising gradually to usual level, meaning it takes a little longer time to come back. Okay, then W-shaped is there. In this growth falls and rises, but falls again before recovering, meaning it will come up, but if it does not complete the V, it will again go down. Okay, so that is W. Okay, meaning a second wave of pandemic kind of thing. So L-shaped economy fails to regain. Okay, because it will go down and it will stay there in the negative phase itself. It will not come up. Okay, so it's a permanent loss to the economic's ability to reproduce. So it's a very like disaster situation. Okay, L. So you should know Z, L, V, W, and U. Which of the following are true? Inactivated poliovirus vaccine protects people against all three types of poliovirus. Okay, so that is true. Type 2 and type 3 poliovirus have been completely eradicated as of 2020. That also should be true. Okay, so answer is both 1 and 2. So if you see here, 2015 and 19, this type 2 and type 3 was eradicated. And then polio, you know, is a viral disease caused by the poliovirus and affecting young children. That's why you have to get vaccinated in childhood. It is transmitted from person to person, spread mainly through the fecal oral route or less frequently by a common vehicle and in the intestine. Okay, so there is no cure for polio. It can only be prevented by immunization. Three wild types of polios, type 1, type 2, type 3 is there. So people need to be protected against all three types. And type 2 was declared eradicated in 2015 and type 3 in 1999. And if you see last detected in November 2012, only type 1 wild this thing remain. There are two vaccines used to protect them. Okay, one is oral one and one is the inactivated one, IPV. Okay, OPV and IPV. So it is used in many countries to protect against polio disease and has been essential to the eradication effort. There are different types of oral poliovirus vaccine which may contain one, a combination of two, or all three different types. So each has their own advantage and disadvantage. After this type 2 was eradicated, the world switched to the bivalent one. Okay, so first it was a trivalent one, which all the three it will cure. But then it switched to bivalent one because the type 2 is already done. That means what? Trivalent contains all three types, but bivalent contains only type 1 and type 3. Okay, but the question is not about this oral poliovirus, it's about the other one, inactivated. Okay, so here if you see, inactivated one protects from all the types of poliovirus. It does not contain live virus, that is why it is inactivated. Okay, so people may receive the vaccine, do not shed the virus and cannot infect others, and the vaccine cannot cause disease. IPV does not stop transmission of the virus. OPV is used wherever a polio outbreak needs to be contained, even in countries which rely exclusively on IPV for their routine immunization program. Okay, so OPV is better and stronger, but it is the live virus. Okay, orally it is given. Okay, the other one, it is not a live virus. And I think Pakistan is one country where polio is even there now, and there are many other countries also. You have to go and search, but India it is eradicated. Now this is again a detailed question. RBI's capital reserve include. Okay, so it includes this. For it's told in the question itself that it includes contingency fund, asset development fund, currency and gold revaluation fund account, then investment revaluation account, foreign exchange forward contract valuation account. So this is a learning for you that RBI's capital reserve include all this. Now question is, RBI's contingency fund steadily increased in the last decade. Okay, so that is wrong. Then the above mentioned capital reserve components, that is these five, are recorded in the asset side of RBI balance sheet. It's not in the asset side, it's actually in the liability side. Okay, so here both of them should be false. Okay, yeah, it's asking for true, so neither one not two. So this is the last decade's thing, values. So it is definitely not steadily increasing, you can see, and it's in the liability side. Again, these five are those things which is there in the question also, which is under RBI's capital reserve. And this is the full detailing about each of that component. Okay, so that you can pause and see, else it will take time. That fourth one, if you see that investment revaluation account, that also has two subparts. If you see the FS and the RS one. Okay, so that also is explained here. One is this foreign security one, and one is this revaluation this thing. Okay, securities one. Okay, RS securities, and this is foreign securities. So like this, very detailed facts I have given, which I hope UPSC will not pick and trouble you. But still, if you need, or if you are an economics optional and all, you can go through this. Okay. Which are the following are true about RBI? Bimal Jalan Committee recommended to transfer 100% of RBI's profit to government. This is not correct. They did not tell 100%. RBI does not have to pay any income tax to the government on its profits made. That is correct. Okay. So answer is 2 only. It does not need. So it is mentioned in section 48 of the RBI Act itself that banks shall not be liable to pay any income tax or super tax or any of its income, profits or gain. That's mentioned in RBI Act 1934. Okay. Then RBI is a full service central bank, and central bank's income comes from its returns. It also earns interest. It claims a management commission on handling. Its expenditure is mainly on printing currency and then other transactions and all which you do with dealers and middlemen. So this is the way RBI makes money. Okay, so this also for your mains and all you need it. So please read this entirely. But for this question, you need other details. So if you see why and how does the RBI transfer surplus to the government? This was a very big controversy 2 years back. So that time we made this question. So Central Board of the RBI does this in early August after the July-June accounting year is over. Okay. RBI was promoted as a private shareholder bank with a paid-up capital of rupees 5 crore in 1935 in British's time itself. 1949, government nationalized it, making the sovereign its owner. Now, Section 47, which is there in RBI Act, after making provisions for bad and doubtful debt, depreciation in asset, contribution to staff and superannuation fund, and for all other matters for which provision is to be made by or under this Act, or which are usually provided by the bankers, the balance of the profits shall be paid to the central government. Okay, so this is mentioned in the this thing. Balance of after doing all this should be passed to the central government. In India, USA, UK, central bank decides the surplus transfer after consultation with the government. In Japan, government itself decides how to transfer. Okay. So different committees are there, YH Malagam committee, the BML Jalan committee. So BML Jalan committee, based on that in 2019, what the government decided or RBI decided is, adhering to its recommendation, RBI has decided to set the CRB, that is this contingent risk buffer level at 5.5% of balance sheet, while transferring the remaining excess reserve worth this much crore to the government. So it's not like 100% transfer to the government as in told in question. It is like this. Okay. Here, if you see, this committee told 99% of gross income should be transferred to this thing. Okay, YH Malagam committee. But Bimal Jalan, some contingency risk buffer and all these things which you have to keep aside, and remaining you have to give. Okay, so in 2019, this value was decided. Okay, so what is contingency risk buffer as per this Bimal Jalan committee? That also you pause and see, because here prelims question very less chances there. But for mains, you will need all this. Okay, but still pause and see. We cannot predict what UPSC will ask. So please pause and read this slide. Which of the following are true about Partnership for Action on Green Economy? This was asked by UPSC already, so you should know it. It is outcome of Rio 92. It is wrong. It is actually outcome of the Rio 2012. Okay, Rio plus 20 summit, and its secretariat is UNEP. So that is correct. Okay. So here, if you know, future we want, this also in another MCQ we told, future we want is the call done by in this summit, and response to that call only page was made. Okay, Partnership for Action on Green Economy was formed. So launched in 2013 as a response to the call, because 2012 only Rio plus 20 summit will happen, and 2013 this was formed. This is the full detailing of that. Again, as I told, it brings all the UN agencies together. Every very minute detailing I have picked and put here and bolded also what is important. So again, you have to pause and read, because these kind of things, if we explain, the video will go very long. Okay, so please pause and read. Serious aspirants, it will take just a minute for you to pause it and read it. Others, if you don't want, don't read it. Again, explanation of different bodies, UNIDO, UNIATR. Okay, these are because many bodies are brought together, as I told. If you see here, United Environment, International Labour Organization, UN Development Program, UNIDO, UN Institute for Training and Research, that is UNITAR. Okay, so that same bodies I have explained here what it is. Okay, UN Environment, ILO, UNDP, and this UNIDO and UNITAR. Okay, so these are all in my international body test. Also, it will be there. My students can go and study, but others pause and read it. Which of the following are true about Coalition for Rainforest, CFRN? It is an intergovernmental organization. It is true. United Nations UN RED program was instrumental in the establishment of CFRN. This is actually reversed. This CFRN was the one which is responsible for UN RED program creation later. Okay, so answer will be one only. So it's a this thing, and if you see here, it is instrumental of the World Bank's Forest Carbon Partnership Facility and the United Nations UN RED program. Okay, so two learnings here is RED program is under UN, and this Forest Carbon Partnership Facility is under World Bank. Okay, so this both were the outcome of this one, or CFRN was responsible for establishment of that things. Okay, so again, different countries and their contributions are mentioned here. You can read it. Which of the following are true about Green Growth Knowledge Partnership? It is hosted by Green Growth Global Green Growth Initiative and UNEP. It receives funding from this page initiative. So both are true. This again is taken from their About Me page, and UPSC have once asked already about this. So just pause and see this very basic thing, and it is also established at that time only, 2012. Their steering committee and many UN bodies and World Bank, all these people are there. Okay, representatives are there in their committee from all these places. Okay, and again funding people, that's also mentioned here. This is the different countries. So even India is there, if you see. Okay, it is participating in this Global Green Growth initiative. It's hosted by UNEP and GGA, which is there in the question. This is the maximum things they'll ask. That is why I put it in the question itself. Remaining, you read it. Which of the following are true about RED+? It is a mechanism developed by parties to the UNFCCC. That is true. It creates a financial value for the carbon stored in forest by offering incentives for developing countries to reduce emissions from forested land and invest in low carbon path to sustainability. So these are a very basic, simple definition which you will know it is true. Okay, so again UNFCCC, and that two statements are picked from here only. Mahatma Gandhi called him the maker of modern India. Who is being referred here? Okay, so maker of modern India will be Bal Gangadhar Tilak. So again, his entire detail is there. 1920 was his death time. So that is why 2020 a question was expected, but UPSC did not ask. But again, 2021 22, they may pick it up. So you should know very basic things about him. Like he told Swaraj is my birthright. Gandhi called him maker of modern India. He's also called father of Indian unrest, or title of Lokmalia is there. Okay, and he's part of this Lal Bal Pal extremist group. Then he founded the Deccan Education Society, of which Gopal Krishna Gokhale was also a part, and later he quit that and went outside. Then Tilak supported the Swadeshi movement. He organized this Shivaji festival and this Ganesha Utsav. Okay, Nehru told he's the father of Indian Revolution, and then he quit the Congress in 1907 Surat session. Okay, you know that they wanted presidency, but they were not giving it to any Lal Bal Pal anyone. It was like sorry, again moderates, which was like under the other senior leaders, Dadabhai Nauroji or other people were becoming president. These people are not made the president, so the split also happened, and they went out of it. Okay, and he formed alliances with other people like this Aurobindo Ghosh, Chidambaram Pillai, Muhammad Ali Jinnah. Okay, and he also concluded the Lucknow Pact with Muhammad Ali Jinnah. 1916, there was a Lucknow Pact where they went back to Congress. Hindu-Muslim unity also was there. So this entire basic things, if you have to know, because UPSC will definitely put one or two statements from here and then maybe another difficult statement. So at least this, if you eliminate, you will get the correct answer. Now Natya Shastra mentions 8 rasas. Actually, there are 9 rasas, that is Navrasa. So 8 only was there in Natya Shastra, which was by the Bharata Muni. Later, Abhinav Gupta, he added the 9th one. Okay. So that 9th one is which one? Meaning all these are rasas only, but which is the 9th one which was added later by Abhinav Gupta. So here answer is Shanta. Okay, here is, yeah, Shanta, peace. Because this 8 was originally there. Okay, Shringar, Hasya, Karuna, Raudra, Veer, Bhayanak, Bibats, and Adbhut. All these were from the starting it was there, and this one was not there. So this one, if you see, he was a Kashmiri Saiva philosopher who lived in 1000 AD. He wrote Abhinava Bharati, commentary of Natya Shastra of Bharata. For the first time, he brought a technical definition of rasa. As per him, rasa is the, so this also important statement, he brought the technical definition of rasa. As per him, rasa is the universal bliss of the Atman, colored by the emotional tone of the drama. The rasa bhava is a central concept in Indian performing arts such as dance, drama, cinema, literature, etc. Bhava means to become. Bhava is the state of mind, while rasa is the aesthetic flavor that results from that bhava. Okay, so you become a state of mind, and then that aesthetic flavor which comes out is rasa. The bhava themselves carry no meaning in the absence of rasa. When we watch a movie, a sad scene makes us cry, that is rasa. The rasa bhava is what establishes a relation between the performer and the audience. Okay, so although labeled as Shaiva philosopher, his works comprise of various things. Okay, all these things are there: Tantra, Yoga, okay, poetry, emotion, philosophy. His important work is this Tantra Loka. Okay, so Abhinav Gupta, Abhinav Bharati is there, Tantra Loka is there. Okay, synthesis of this Trika system is another name of Kashmir Shaivism. Then supplementary work is there, Tantra Rasa. Other writings are Pratyabhiga, Bigya. Okay, so these are, again, as I told, this person is not yet asked by UPSC, but it's mentioned in history textbooks. So you can read this. Okay. Now, poverty. Absolute measurement of poverty is majorly used by developed countries like relative, while relative measurement of poverty is majorly used by developing countries. Okay. Absolute poverty, measurement of poverty depends not only on the income, but also on access to social service. That is true. While using relative measurement of poverty, certain percentage of economically bottom population is always considered below the poverty line. That's also true. So 2 and 3 are true, but this first one is reversed. Okay, absolute, this thing is not by developed, it is by developing country. So statement 1 is reversed. Absolute poverty. According to UN World Summit for Economic Development, absolute poverty is a condition characterized by several deprivation of basic human needs, including food, water, sanitation, all these things. It depends not only on income, but also on the access to social service. Okay, that is the second statement. Poverty threshold. The poverty threshold in absolute measurement of poverty is set using the monetary value of a basket of essential products required for basic needs, and every household whose income is less than this value will be classified as poor. Limited scope. Absolute measurements of poverty used by the World Bank and developing countries like India rely on a poverty line which remains constant across geographies and over time. Absolute measurement of poverty overlooks deprivation within countries or the higher cost of living in developed countries. Relative measure, if you see, it is present when a household income is lower than the median income in a particular country, and it's used majorly by developed countries. Okay, so relative poverty is the one is used by developed countries. So this is actually reversed in first statement. So those who fall into this category of relative poverty are not necessarily deprived of all basic needs, but may not experience the same standard of living as the majority of the society. Then poverty threshold is, in this method, certain percentage of economically bottom population is always considered below the poverty line. Okay, so that also we put in the statement. This is the differences. It refers to poverty of people relative to other people. This is the total number of people living below the poverty line. When we say India is relatively poor, then it is in comparison with other countries. The comparison is that of per capita income of different countries. Here, the concept has relevance for less developed countries, and the concept has no relevance for developed countries. Within India, relative poverty is calculated with the help of Lorentz curve and Gini coefficient. In India, absolute poverty is calculated with the help of poverty line. India is relatively one of the poorest countries of the world as per its per capita income is less than $1 per day. In India, 29.8% of total population is absolutely poor. So these numbers, fourth point, don't take too much stress, but other three is an important point, and UPSC can form statements from this. Which of the following are true about Global Climate Change Alliance Plus, GCCA Plus? This is also asked by UPSC, and it's also there in your economic survey of last year. It's a UN flagship initiative. It supports certain countries in implementing their commitments resulting from the 2015 agreement. It has provided funding for projects in national, regional, and worldwide scope in Africa, Asia, Caribbean, and the Pacific. So here, if you see, it is a European Union flagship initiative. So UPSC will ask that alone, like this is related to whom? It is European Union. Its organizations are European Commission, European Aid. These are the ones who manage it. Having started with just 4 pilot projects in 2008, it has become a major climate initiative that has funded over 80 projects. So many projects are there now. Okay, so poverty reduction, sustainable development, climate change, all these it works. Okay, and it helps all these small island nations and LDCs and sustainable things. Okay, out of this 2015 summit, whatever came, those countries to achieve their goals and all, this will help. And these are again more details. Supports the developing countries achieving their NDCs and overall target of at least 20% of EU budget spent for this. Platform for dialogue and exchange of experience. Technical and financial cooperation is supported. So these are again basic things, okay, not like any specific. But if any body or term or some fund is there, you have to by heart it. These are its priority areas. This is the funding eligibility. So again, it will be smaller countries. So this also pause and see. If UPSC want to trouble you, they can go one step ahead and ask you which all countries are eligible. So please pause and read this also. Vaibhashika is an early school related to. Okay. So this also UPSC once asked in a different name. That is Sarvastivada. Sarvastivada is under which one they asked, and it was Buddhism. So you should know it is just a different name. Vaibhashika is a different name for early school of Buddhism. Okay. So here again, Sautantrika, Sarvastivadin, Mahavibhasha. So this and all, one chart was there in another question I showed you, and maybe in tomorrow's episode I'll try to put the chart again. In the chart, all the I think 20 sect, okay, very unpopular one, not like just Hinayana or Mahayana, 20 sect like this names, okay, Sarvastivada and all. There is a chart that I'll show you. So you will know like all those are Buddhism. So when you see question comes, you can at least avoid it, okay, eliminate it and get to know whether it is Buddhism or Jainism. Which of the following social unit from ancient Tamil Nadu are matched correctly? So Ur is peasantry village, Nagaram is trader village, Sabha is Brahmana village. So all these are true. So answer will be none of these because it's asking for incorrect. It is there in NCERT and R.S. Sharma. Now these three terms, Pudgalvada, Ekavaharya and Golukya are sect under which one? So this again, as I told, Buddhism, Jainism terms keeps coming. That's why we are putting these questions. So these are all again Buddhism. Okay, so we have the chart here itself. So here if you see, this 20 sect, okay, under Sarvastivada this 11 sect are there, and this Mahasangika 9 sect are there. So this already asked, this Lokottaravadin, then this Sarvastivadin, Sautantrika, this all are asked by UPSC already. So you have to know it. Okay, remaining terms we can't predict when they will ask, but any of this term which you see on screen, if UPSC asks, you should know this is under Buddhism. Okay, so Theravada is there. Then this Sarvastivada is again mentioned here. Mahasangika. Both are actually same, but in a different timeline format. Here left side is given with timeline format, right side is given in a simple format. Okay. So just go through it once, because if you glance this once and in exam hall, if the exact same word comes, 2 marks extra you will get. Okay. So these were the 25 questions for today. Please subscribe. I'll come up with the next episode tomorrow. Thank you and have a nice day.